After making 24 videos inside of a week for round 1, I decided I would change things up for the remaining 3 qualification rounds. So I still plan on being comprehensive about every battle and every battle played and every team used in this tournament. But I figured that it would be best to combine that with something else I was already planning, which was to get a sort of retrospective from every player in the tournament after it was over. So, about the games they played, about the teams they used. So, yeah, I will leave that for then. And for the remaining 3 qualification rounds, I figured rather than go through every single series, then I would instead focus on my favorite series. And that's still a lot, so no shortage of games are coming up in this video. These series were chosen for their innovation and their high levels of execution or play. Because sometimes we make the mistake of associating, great play with flashy, huge predictions, huge amounts of risk, and having it pay off. But sometimes, as this first series is a great example of, sometimes just great execution is all you need, depending on the matchup. And yeah, I wanted to highlight those high levels of execution and, of course, great predictions and all that. And also, the amount of innovation we've been seeing in this tournament is insane. It's really, really cool stuff. And there's plenty in this video. But also just seeing a classic strategy executed effectively is incredibly pleasant. Because if it was just all new sets and teams every game and series, that would be a sign of a very unstable tier with too many options. So the good Pokemon and strategies, remain the best because they're just fundamentally solid. And part of the joy of watching these tournaments, yes, it's to see new things come to light, which is why I'm so proud of this tournament already. We've already seen so many cool things. But just seeing the highest level of execution of these strategy is a joy in and of itself. Alright, so that was a lengthy preamble, and we will now get to the first series I chose to highlight, which was Stone Cold versus Locopoke. I was excited for this series because these are 2 veterans from the ancient cave people times when Generation 4 was the current gen. So, we're not going to go into a deep dive on every play and everything in this video because there's a lot of series to cover. But so we're just going to give more of an overview, and we can leave the comprehensive stuff for when each player gives us their individual insight at the end of the tournament. But for now, we've got T-Tar versus Fori. Is that the right game? Oh, no. Yeah, I think this is the first game. No, nope, I'm totally wrong, I think. Oh, no, wait, okay, so I'm off to a great start, but I'm not starting over after that preamble, which went so well. Okay, so I think I watched this series in the wrong order then, because I always thought the T-Tar... Okay, anyway, so T-Tar and Fori should probably run, because it will... it fears Fire move, and that lets T-Tar get up rocks. Fori does in fact run, and in comes Groudon, and Stone does not have a Fire move, he has T-Wave. So I think Rocks is generally the safer move, because Fori's not going to risk staying in, but that is what happens. So Rocks, Crunch, so Stone really doesn't want to switch into this Groudon. And just look, the one thing about Groudon is that it's kind of like Swampert, and that if you hit it enough, it'll eventually go down, but Groudon hits really hard, so it's kind of a pain. And Stone kind of, I don't want to say gets in his head, but he kind of takes advantage of the fact that T-Tar and Groudon is such a mismatch that Loco is deciding, oh, well, he's not going to stay in now, so I'll Roar. So T-Tar actually gets away fairly scot-free and gets some good chip on it. Anyway, there's a double. Giratina came in to answer Groudon, and Loco was just trying to get Fori in for not even to spin, just to get up a hazard, because when you're running a very bulky team in Ubers, you are not trying to wall everything permanently. I mean, sometimes that'll work out, but it's not something you can rely on. You rely on putting those threats on a timer with your hazards. So, with the matchup being 4 against Tina, O, and Sun, you don't want to take HP fire. So, for and Protect, though, and that's a great use of, or that's a great showcase of why Protect is great on 4E. Because, yes, it's good for lefties accumulation, chip damage, scouting choice pokes, but it's also great just for scouting the potential moveset something might have. So for Tina O, even if it stays in and it doesn't use HP fire on that turn, that doesn't mean it doesn't have it. It could just be expecting the 40 switch out. But you do have the you do open yourself up to potentially revealing that it does have HP fire. So obviously you don't want to just Protect on everything, because I mean you can call it can Calm Mind and stuff, but a Calm Mind or Sub Calm Mind or Calm Mind 3 attacks Tina or O is not going to want to set up on 4. It's just going to want to attack it. So yeah, that was a good Protect from Loco, and he finds out that if the Tina O switches out there, I mean, it's still not a guarantee it doesn't have HP fire, but very, very likely it doesn't. Actually, no, and the fact that it switched out to a Kyogre of all things means that it almost certainly does not. So in comes Quagsire as Kyogre Calm Minds, and I'm really happy to see Quag because Loco was one of the earliest guys to use Quagsire back when it was the current gen. And I remember he would argue with people who said, "Oh, Quagsire sucks. It's UU. That's at one point it was NU, I think." And he was like, "No, it's really good." And yeah, it just stuffs most Kyogres. Calm Mind can be annoying, but with things like Encore and Toxic, then it generally gets the job done. And you will generally have a backup. Like if the Kyogre is Rest Sleep Talk, Quag blanks it anyway. And Encore's into Sleep Talk, so even when it wakes up, it's hapless. And then you can roar it out. And if it's Rest without Sleep Talk, then you will be able to roar it out even more easily. And subsets, that's why you have Encore. So, Kyogre Calm Minds again, which will do nothing if Quag Encores. But Quag goes for Yawn. So, that is an interesting option on Kyogre. And look how bulky Quag is. Now, that Kyogre definitely does not have max special attack, but that's the thing. A lot of Kyogres don't run, the Calm Mind variants often don't run max special attack, so yeah, Quagsire is very resilient, really awesome poke. And Yawn is a great option on it. I mean, being able to dish out sleep like that is just wonderful. So, it's an underrated option. I mean, we've seen stuff like Protect and Haze on it, but Yawn, that's really cool, so glad Loco brought it. So, Blissey comes in, because the Quag, if it's not encoring, then it's not actually threatening the Ogre, and this might be a problem, because Blissey comes in, and third Calm Mind is Toxic misses, T-Wave helping out the odds, and now +3 Surf is going to 2 a KO. And now there's a turn where Loco tries to Protect for extra lefties, and Stone does not want to give the Kyogre or Quagsire a free switch, because of Water Absorb, so... And then a double full para, which really bites, so luck not on Loco's side here. But, so the question is, does he have Encore? And he does, and that's probably the move that should have been used to begin with. But now that it's Toxic, that's definitely the move that should have been used to begin with. But now that it's Toxic, yeah, he lost Blissey, which makes it difficult. But the good news is that Kyogre is basically down, and Fori's going to get a hazard down. So the other threats... such as this Dialga, will be put on a timer. Of course, a special Dialga with a Blissey down is a massive threat, so there's that. And there's Protect, and Stone shows Dragon Pulse. And that, in conjunction with the fact that he is running a Kyogre, means that it's not very likely that Dialga has a fire move here. So, Loco stays in, gets the spin-off, and that's huge because he has Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh Quagsire is a great combination, and I'm really happy to see it. And it's a Light Screen Ho-Oh. Light Screen is an awesome, awesome, awesome move on Ho-Oh. Because, I mean, how do you make Quagsire and Palkia and Dialga and friends even less threatening? Well, Light Screen, of course. I mean, you make yourself impenetrable and your teammates even more so. So, really glad to see it. I really love that set. So, Quag, Ho-Oh, Yawn Quag, Light Screen Ho-Oh, awesome stuff. Anyway, T-Star gets rocks back up. And I was thinking that maybe Loco might want to go to 4 just to keep... Well, I guess Tina O is going to be able to spin block if it really wants. So better just go to Groudon and get a KO. Or a Toxic on Tina O if it wants to come in. So yeah, never mind. That was a much better move on Loco's end. If you can draw in the Tina O and Toxic it, that might let him actually get the spin off with Fori long term. Especially because that has Protect. So very nice call there. So he takes more damage on Groudon, and but that means he exchanges that for a KO on T-Tar. So in comes Blissey, and wondering what's going on there, and it goes first, which is already strange. That means Groudon used Roar, and Stone. This is a Stone Classic, Healing Wish, a Stone Cold Classic. That's funny. Healing Wish Blissey, and he brings back the Kyogre, which means, you know, with Quagsire at 40 and Blissey down and facing a Sun team, this might get hairy. Especially because he's going to get roared out now, but because of the way Healing Wish works, then hazards go first. Something to keep in mind for later. And so he goes back up to full, so he'll only be at 75 later. So it would have been much better if he took the EQ and then Healing Wish to Kyogre, obviously. Especially because he gets roared into Groudon, or sorry, Garchomp. But yeah, I mean, Kyogre's still going to be threatening later on. Not insurmountable necessarily, especially depending on Loco's last. It's very likely going to be some sort of spin blocking apparatus, let's say, because his team is very slow. So either that or something fast, like a Scarf Dialga. So Garchomp doesn't want any part of this, and Loco makes a great move and Toxics the Giratina, so once again opening the door. Oh, he goes, never mind, he goes right to Fori. That's his sack. So good move to preserve the Groudon, because that way he can cut off Kyogre's reign if need be. And now against Tina O, he brings it back in and does not take Draco, and he has no choice but to Roar, and he brings in the Kyogre. So never, you know, don't mind me as much. You know, Ho could have come in there, but if the Tina O has Outrage, then it's basically down for nothing, and Quagsire can't take it. And the last, well, now we can rule out Scarf Dialga, because that would have been a perfect opportunity for it to come in. So in comes Kyogre, which Ice Beams, and Groudon is faster because this is a T-Wave Comb on Kyogre, so Stone did not want to run Speedy Bees on it. And some speed creep on Loco's defensive Groudon pays off big time as he gets a Toxic off. And now Quagsire is going to be able to live an Ice Beam, but instead in comes Giratina. And a Sub Protect Giratina is another set that Loco really helped make popular. Not even popular, but he was one of the few people using it when Gen 4 was current, and it was pretty brutal. I remember he brought it back for a Battle of the Week against Iconic when DPP Ubers had one of its first retro throwback moments in the fall of 2012. Anyway, so yeah, with the Kyogre Toxic, then, I mean, this set is devilish, truly, with all the poison being thrown around by this team. So whether it's Calm Mind or Wisp Blast, it's pretty brutal still. Anyway, so Stone Dracos, because if he Dragon Pulses, then Ho is going to recover it off anyway. So he wants to... Well, I guess Draco is just more powerful against Tina in the event it stays in. But either way, Ho is going to heal it off. So unless you want to go crit fishing with Pulse. But no, he wants to switch to Giratina. So now, even if the Tina O from Stone has Outrage, then Ho-Oh is presumably slower. Because if it's Light Screen, it's going to be very defensive. So it's going to be slower, and it can just recover stall. So, it has Thunder, which does approximately nothing, because it does nothing. Because Ho is ridiculous. And instead, he's not going to be doing any damage, or get a Para. So, I wonder what that last move... I guess he didn't want to he didn't want to accumulate any Brave Bird recoil, but, you know, Sacred Fire means he can potentially get hit twice. Or, you know, or you could Light Screen. Well, any move was... I think Recover was probably safest there, just in case of Outrage. But, yeah. So now Dialga's going to come in, and Ho is going to have to muscle it out. That Thunder does a lot, and he recovers just to scout it out. And, well, the thing is, if it's a choice Dialga, then afterwards, then... Actually, no, not necessarily. Because, if the Giratina subs, and then Garchomp comes in, and then Dialga will finish it off. So Ho-Oh needs to handle this Dialga somehow. Because otherwise, the combination of Dialga and Garchomp will beat it. I mean, if Tina switches into Thunder, that's one thing. But no, yeah, Ho-Oh with you know, with rocks up, it'll be cleaned up afterwards. So yeah, Ho-Oh, but the Ho-Oh can deal with this Dialga, besides just hoping for pressure stall and not getting paralyzed, which, you know, nah, that's Thunder's doing too much. But with Light Screen, then let's look at that again. With Light Screen, it does, you know, zilch. Jilch was the word I was looking for. Goes for Sacred Fire rather than trying to prolong Ho-Oh, and that's a great move. He gets the burn. And I don't know if it was better than Recover, especially because Stone doesn't have Infinite Thunders. But I guess he wanted Chip on it, so Giratina was likelier to finish off with a Dragon Pulse. The fact that he gets the burn is really helpful, though, because yeah, I think Recover might have been it, honestly. But I guess he was also trying to Sacred Fire in case Garchomp came in to get the burn. Maybe Garchomp was the move there. So, that very possible, actually. Because now Dialga is going to give Giratina a sub, and there's nothing, and it's going to win the game. So I think some different maneuvering could have been done there. But hey, that's the game sometimes. So, great game one. Really, really cool stuff on display as Garchomp is going to Outrage, and Tina is going to finish it off. Oh, no, it's going to sub again. Just, yeah, good work by Loco to maximize the odds, you know, incur the confusion, just in case Dragon Pulse doesn't KO by some miracle. So, and it does. So, that is game one. We're moving on to game two, and we already see it's T-Tar versus DOS. We're not going to go into that lead matchup. Like we have, if you want to see a deep dive of that lead matchup, then there are a lot of other videos from round one. But yeah, so we know what's at stake here. So Stone does not opt to go for Rocks, he goes for Crunch, and DOS is Colbur, so it gets up Rocks, and chooses to break T-Tar's Sash or its Chople. In general, make sure it can't wreak havoc on the following Pokemon. Stone goes for T-Wave again, so he really likes that T-Wave lead T-Tar, which is an interesting choice. And, excuse me, adjusting the mic there. And he gets up Rocks, and DOS gets up Spikes, and now Dialga comes in with Rocks, layers of Spikes, and the score is 5-5. Now Stone has to get some momentum back. He's got a Groudon, but it's not likely to lead to a KO necessarily, even if he T-Waves a Giratina Origin switch in. So, but he might be setting the groundwork, laying the groundwork for long term. Like his previous team in round one of them really liked spreading the love with Para, and this one is doing so too. And this one shows Cresselia, which is unlike Stone to use such a bulky Pokemon, but it could be nice. And here comes Wob. Now Cress normally is very good against offensive stuff, but here is Wob showing its strength. Because when you face, I mean, Wob is so good against every kind of team. Offense, you remove their fast they're Scarfers mostly, and against defense, you just waltz in on so many of the Pokemon that can't hurt you and just completely take advantage of them. As Cress gets Encored in a T-Wave, not a bad move to get Encored into, but the problem is Wob also has Safeguard, as this is the lefty's Wob, which I think is better than Custap D-Bond, and now Loco goes to Rayquaza. And this is scary because Cress is usually used as a Rayquaza check. So when your check has to switch out of the Pokemon it's supposed to be checking, then that's dangerous. So in comes Chomp, and if it's Scarf, it can handle DD nicely. But it's SD Ray. Now, Chomp is one of the better answers to another SD E-Speed Pokemon, Lucario, because it's so naturally bulky that even though it doesn't resist E-Speed, it can take it. But Ray is a lot stronger than Lucario, and even though Chomp can take an Adamant +2 or Luke E-Speed after Rocks and Spikes, well, yeah, Ray kind of takes it out. So, and you know, you can't really force Ray to not have a free turn ever for setup when it's paired with Wob. So Wob Ray, incredible combination. Really happy to see it. Cress comes in and gets melted by Dragon Claw, which is pretty brutal. And from there, it's looking like... Oh yeah, the Groudon had T-Wave without lefties, which I was surprised by. So probably like Lum, SD. Lum, SD, T-Wave, probably. Sorry, I was reading the chat. And yeah, Loco, the Dragon Claw did crit. Loco's like, wonder if it needed, but Stone said probably not. So the E-Speed on the Chomp was a roll, but hey. Alright, so this I really like this just because of, Wob Ray is so brutal and great execution. So, alright, so that was the first series, and we're moving on to... Oh, this is the first game again. Yeah, let's see with the 4. So I had it open twice. Okay, another oh, this one's a real firecracker. Twash versus Crystal. So, Ho-Oh lead, always love to see it. Darkrai, is it going to void? Who knows? Ho-Oh does, or Crystal does not risk it. Hang on, let me just make sure I have the, no, never mind. So, he does not risk it. In comes Sacred Fire. Good move. That's the move for Ho-Oh against Rai to just, even if Dark Void misses, or if you are Lum, then Brave Bird's not KOing Rai unless you're banded or, boosted in some form, like with Sharp Beak or something. So Sacred Fire going for the burn is generally better for the longer term, especially in case, because Brave Bird wouldn't even handle a Sash Darkrai, or wouldn't even KO a Sash Darkrai even if boosted. So gets the burn on Kyogre, no Lum, no lefties, that's good knowledge, and Dialga comes in. And even from 74, that Water Spout does a ton. So that's a Specs Kyogre, and that's always great to see. And the second Water Spout, even with the weakened base power as Kyogre dropped from 74 to 62, still takes out Dialga. So that was pretty astonishing. Always fun to see Specs Kyogre do things. Now Twash goes to his own Kyogre and surfs and crits and does a lot to Crystal's Dialga. But not quite going to get the 2 KO. And he's still going to be at full health, but with Protect, maybe he can take another. And he gets up Rocks, which is big, so Ho-Oh is going to be neutered next time it comes in. Takes the second Surf, and he roars the Ho-Oh in. So, Ho-Oh uses Tailwind. Now, that is a rarely seen move in DPP because its duration is really low. But if you are, I've never really seen it used successfully, but hey, that's what this tournament is for. And certainly not on Ho-Oh. So there's Tailwind and Roar, so that's perfect because now you get to use it again. Problem is you're using it against a Pokemon with Protect. And Twash makes a great move and Calm Minds, expecting the Protect to burn Tailwind turns. Also, interesting from Crystal that we haven't seen Stealth Rock, Protect, and Roar on the same Dialga set. And that's really cool. I love, that's a small kind of innovation in the grand scheme of things. Like, it's not, like a cool new item or something, but then again, like most things aren't, most of the innovations in this tier, I mean, yes, Tailwind Ho-Oh, that's, flashy and big, and that's not to disparage flashy and big innovations, those are important too, but just those like little things, like seeing Protect and Roar on the same, stealth rocking Dialga, that's really valuable because half the time you miss Roar when you're dealing with like a Calm Mind Kyogre or a sub Giratina, and sometimes you miss Protect for the leftovers accumulation, and so he's just like, yeah, why not both? It's not like you need that coverage move, and Dragon has such good neutral coverage when stabbed, so yeah, that was really, really good. Or really, really happy to see that from Crystal. And Twash tries to take advantage of the Protect, but Crystal plays it safe and goes for a Roar, so great move, and he brings Ho-Oh back in, so not getting new information in terms of Twash's team, but he is weakening Ho-Oh. And Ho-Oh has a Custat Berry. I don't know, I was expecting Crystal to Protect, not that it really would have mattered to burn the Tailwind turn, so at least by not using Protect, he made sure that Twash couldn't switch around him and remain predictable. He would remain aggressive. So Ho-Oh was Custap, which is, we already established in previous videos that Custap is a very cool option on lead Ho-Oh. But with Tailwind, I mean, that's really cool. You get down to low HP from Brave Bird Recoil and just general damage and rocks. And then you Custap and then you Tailwind, and suddenly you have a bunch of big guns coming in with a lot of speed for a few turns. And a few turns, that's a lot of damage can be done with a few turns. It's why Trick Room teams are so dangerous sometimes. So, yeah, Ho-Oh shows Custap, probably didn't need it there, but it's still very cool. And Tina-Oh comes in revenge, so already seeing some cool stuff. Tina is going to burn through this Kyogre with Thunder into Ice Beam. And Custap Kyogre takes it out, too. That's so cool. I mean, Custap is not unheard of on Kyogre, but it's still very, very rare. So to see it actually in action and actually used there, that's really cool. So, I mean, I guess maybe Crystal should have thought something might be up, given that it's not lefties and I didn't show Lum on the Thunder para. But, I mean, it still could be, I don't know, yeah, I guess Custap would make sense, so maybe Shadow Sneak was safer. But either way, even if it didn't work, just the fact that it is Custap is very cool. That's the idea. So Crystal goes back to Specs Kyogre and locks into Surf, taking him out. In comes Groudon, which is still not going to love taking it. But Crystal goes to Skarm, and if this is a fire, yeah, Skarm gets destroyed. But Specs Kyogre comes back in. In comes Mewtwo, which is not going to take a Specs Surf. Yeah, so kind of a race against the clock here for Twash, and I mean, Kyogre can still do a lot of damage, but he just goes to Darkrai and Dark Voids, and that is not a Lum Groudon, which would have been scary if it was. But Groudon stays asleep as Kyogre comes back in, has one more turn, and he has to hope that, yeah, I mean, he's kind of running out of Pokemon here anyway, so even if the Groudon did wake up, then, well, we don't know Crystal's last necessarily. Yeah, and we're not going to find it out, so. Unless it's also, oh, it's Salad Groudon, not Custap, but Salak, so that's really, really cool. So I really like the idea of Twash's team, the surprise speed. So yeah, awesome stuff. Oh yeah, Kyogre also didn't have Wackenberry, which is another possibility when eating the Thunder. So could have, but it all worked out, and it was really cool to see either way because it would have activated even if Crystal did go for Shadow Sneak. So game 2, and this is a contender for my favorite game of the tournament so far. So Tentacruel lead, T-Tar, T-Spikes, Hydros, Rocks. Crystal doesn't want any part of it and just goes right to Chomp and EQs. So in comes Tentacruel's trusty partner, Bronzong. T-Tar comes back in on the Zong, does not show Lum as Rocks go up. Rocks go up for Crystal as well. So now he can threaten Spin, or just he wants the second layer of T-Spikes. So that's valuable. He decided to not fruitlessly spin into Tina O and just guarantee the second layer. And if Crystal's going to give him the spin, then that's great. And he can't really spam... Okay, sorry, that went a little too fast. And he can't really spam Rocks forever. I haven't done the math, but he's also poisoned, so he would lose his T-Tar if he really tried to keep up off Rocks at all costs. So after the spin goes off, then in comes none other than Dugtrio. And I do think Dugtrio has a really cool niche in Ubers that hasn't been explored yet. So major props to Twash, or thoroughly explored. So major props to Twash for bringing it, as it removes the T-Tar there, and there's a lot of other pokes it can beat, like none other than Dialga. So in comes a Latias. And Dugtrio uses Sub, so what would you expect from Doug? Well, you would expect Choice Band. You certainly would not expect Sub with lefties. So now I'm thinking something's up, as it gets Latias to reveal HP Fire, so that's already valuable information. Rather than switching Bronzong directly into HP Fire, maybe you can consider some alternative routes. And he does consider the alternative route of going to Ludicolo. Now, Ludicolo in Sand is not going to want to deal with a Soldew Latias, especially if it's packing Draco Meteor over Dragon Pulse. But he can draw the Draco for Bronzong, but he stays in, and Draco misses and he gets Leech Seeded, so that's definitely very helpful. Crystal decides to not play around with it and goes to Scizor, which can U-turn on Ludicolo nicely. If you have a sub-up with Ludicolo, a lot of them run Sassy with minimal speed IVs just to underspeed Choice Band Scizor, just so they can sub again after Scizor U-turns out. But then again, you might want to sub in front of Scizor in the one-on-one, so there's not really a correct way to do it. Because if you sub against Scizor in the one-on-one, then you prevent it from scaring you out. So Jirachi on Scizor. Jirachi is probably going to be something defensive. It can just sit on the support Scizor because they don't really threaten SD. And Chomp is poisoned. So I definitely don't quite agree with letting Ludicolo take the Surf, or stand on the Draco Meteor when there was not just Bronzong but also Jirachi. So that was, I think, a needless risk from Twash, but I'm sure he knows that. So in comes Kyogre against Chomp with the Wish hanging from Jirachi, so it could gobble up any damage that Chomp would have dished out, barring Choice Band Outrage or something, but that was unlikely. So, especially with the Bronzong hanging out there. So, and Kyogre replaces the Sand with Rain permanently, unless Twash has Groudon in the back. It is now going to be a rainy battlefield. And, yeah, so now he gets it in on the Scizor, so this is good, since Latias is going to be at less than half after Rocks, and Kyogre looks pretty threatening. So, it's... and he goes for Toxic as Crystal stays in and goes for Toxic of his own, so great move. So first of all, I do like Toxic Kyogre a lot. I think it's really cool for ruining Latias and Ludicolo and Quagsire, and can even mess with Blissey nicely. Well, you have T-Spikes for that, but the T-Spikes don't always work. So Toxic really forces the issue, and T-Spikes, of course, don't work against the Lati twins, so I really, really like that. And I also like the Toxic from Crystal's Scizor, and it's very good in a number of situations, because Scizor, when it's only using attacking moves, then it can kind of thud against a lot of stuff. But with Toxic, hey, that Groudon that you previously had to U-turn haplessly out of, you just permanently damaged it. So that's really cool, and yeah, he was willing to take a big hit because Scizor, I mean, it can take he's really behind at this point. He's got to do something to come back. So, and he can't just go on the defensive. He doesn't have hazards or anything. He can't just go on the defensive to the less than half health Latias. He has to make something happen. So this is a really cool Toxic, both in the team builder and in the game. So now Latias comes in on the Surf, and now it can heal up because at least Kyogre is going to be losing health. So Zong comes in, and Scizor is going to sit on the Zong and probably sit on the Rachi. It might be a long game of stalling the Roosts, but that's what's got to be done. And if the Kyogre has rest, then that at least gives some room to Crystal's other Pokemon. So, in this little stall war, we're going to skip ahead a little, as Jirachi shows Thunder as its paralysis move over Body Slam or Thunder Wave. So, he wishes, U-turns into Chomp. This is going to be a long stall war since Scizor, Bullet Punch has 40-something PP, but going to Chomp isn't doing anything because of Protect and Bronzong. So, Wish, Kyogre comes in. And now here comes Latias again, not popping Ice Beam, and Latias is healing up. And a Grass Knot, so great move from Crystal, not being passive, and instead, if the Kyogre wants to stay in Toxic, punish it with damage. And if the Steals come in, okay, but you know, Crystal is behind and he needs to make something happen. So that was a really great read, really nicely done. And Kyogre misses the Toxic, so that was pretty. That was rough, but, I mean, Ludicolo dodged Draco Meteor, so call it even, or something along those lines. But yeah, that was a great move, and yeah, Toxic Miss was definitely unfortunate. So, Scizor finally gets paired, but that might even help it, because it means it expends less PP in this drawn-out stall war. So, yeah, now we're going to skip ahead a little here, as U-turn again into Chomp, as it's losing a little bit of poison damage, but it saves Scizor some PP. Still got a lot of Roosts left, as once again, U-turn, Twash goes right to Zong, so he can EQ Scizor, and no, so he can, nice move, that's really nice. So rather than get stuck in this stalemate forever and give Crystal some opportunity, he decides to go on the offensive. He decides to scout out the EQ with Zong, and if he manages to do that, he can then assume it's locked in, so he can safely double switch to Ludicolo without risking subjecting it to a dragon move. And if Ludicolo can come in, then this is where the fun starts. With rocks, 2 layers of T-Spikes, in rain. So he subs on the Scizor, and in comes Latias again. So he stays in on the Draco. This time it's more justifiable because of all the recovery he's going to get from Leech and Rain Dish, and he protects. So it's still looking pretty good for Twash, because Crystal doesn't seem to have a way to break his core. I mean, Scizor is going to take a while. Nice double switch from Twash there to get Ludicolo back in. You know, when you have a threatening Pokemon like this, find a way to force it on your opponent as much as you can. So, sub on there again, and Latias in again. I mean, all these double switches are helping, are not really helping Crystal's case. So in comes Groudon, so there is the Rain replacement. It's not Lum, but it's a lot healthier than Kyogre, who's also who's also Toxic. So it's not like you can even double switch for Lefty's recovery, and it can't switch into anything. So now that the sun is up and the Latias has HP Fire, and now it suddenly gets really interesting, because both of Twash's Latias checks are vulnerable to HP Fire, and in Sun it's going to do a lot of damage. And Kyogre can't even switch into Reset the Weather on an HP Fire because it's at such low health. I mean, maybe it can take 1 HP Fire and then remain at 1%. And then Groudon switches in, and the same thing happens again later. So the Latias is suddenly, with that Sun setup, is now really, really, really threatening to the whole team. So in comes Scizor again on the Protect. Very nicely done by Crystal. So now he's really getting some momentum going as he U-turns. So he took his time and had the Groudon. And in comes Zong on the U-turn for Latias to switch in. I don't know about Latias into... I guess he doesn't want to subject the other pokes to T-Spikes, but he just goes... I think Chomp would have been better there just so Latias doesn't take rocks damage, but he goes to... Now the goal is to get Latias in as much as possible, and just like the golden days of OU, Scizor is now going to spam U-turn and bring in Latias. So nice big crit on the Jirachi, and now Latias is staring it down with a sun-boosted HP Fire. So this is really, really threatening. So in comes Kyogre to reset the weather. Yup, it lives, and it's now going to be at 2%, so it can do this once more. And now Ludicolo comes in, instead of Zong or Jirachi to get some Leech Seed action going. So nicely done there. Really risky move from Twash, but he had to do it to keep himself alive. In comes Groudon to reset the weather, and he gets Leech Seeded. Now he's still going to be... He's taking a lot of chip damage, but he's still... is far healthier than the Kyogre, and Kyogre can only switch in once more without taking damage at that. It can't switch into Latias HP Fire anymore even. So great Leech Seed, but yeah, still not out of the woods yet, even with all the chip Groudon's taking. And a great second Leech from Twash as Scizor comes back in. Now he can Protect just for more, but if he subbed there, that would have been really nice. But Crystal Roosts, really nice read, and he U-turns on the sub to bring in Latias. No Paras there. The Paras are definitely going to be a big help for Ludicolo if it has to go one-on-one with Scizor later, but we're not quite there yet, we don't think. So Latias comes in, free Protect for sure, no choice. Force a Draco, so it wouldn't have KO'd earlier, but it would have done a lot. Nothing that Ludicolo couldn't have healed back, because Rain Dish and Protect is ridiculous, but still a big miss. But then again, there was the big Toxic miss on Latias later, so call it even-ish. So Leech is still going to do nicely against the Draco, so see it did 69, and then it's going to be a -2, so with Protect, then Ludicolo is definitely going to be out of range. And Twash makes a great move and Leech Seeds again. It was probably a roll for Draco to KO there, but it was very unlikely that Crystal would just go for it and let Latias get drained more, especially because Protect would burn up another Draco Meteor PP. So that was a really, really great move on Twash's end. I'd love to see it. So Leech is on the Scizor again. He doesn't have infinite Leeches, but he still has plenty for his purposes. So yeah, he's got to be careful with his health against Draco Meteor, but Draco Meteor also does not have infinite PP. It only has 4 left right now. So Scizor's back in, and there's Protect. Just even if Crystal Roost, it doesn't matter. He just wants the recovery. And now Bronzong comes back in just so he doesn't weaken Ludicolo more. And now here come the Paras. And he's spreading the Leech Seed recovery to... Well, Bronzong was at full, but now Jirachi. And now with Scizor Leech Seeded, then he can potentially flinch Scizor down effectively, but Scizor breaks through, U-turns, in comes Latias. So, once again, it is the HP Fire dilemma, as Twash's Protects are, going to help him with lefties and, maybe burning a Rogue Draco PP, but... Yeah, in comes Kyogre and replaces the Sun with Rain for the last time. So now Groudon comes in, and the effect is permanent. As Twash gets up a Wish, so he's at least going to get his Ludicolo, or no, his Jirachi healthy. So, yeah, either way, this is going to be a tense finish. So, Crystal goes back to Scizor, waits for a clean shot with Groudon, if he can get one later, which is tough, because it's poison and there's all the Protect. But, yeah, now Bronzong is going to stay in on Scizor, just EQ. Then in comes Ludicolo, really, really tense here, as Twash's timer is constantly hovering in the 30s to the 20s. Let me show you the last, we're at turn 74 now. Let me show you ever since turn 64. See, there's 60, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 20, 25, 20, 30, 30, 30, 30, 20, 30, 20, 15. So he's really got to step it up, and the sight of that timer can just put even more pressure on you. So he makes a great move to Ludicolo, as Crystal is definitely going for Roost there, and that gets him a round of lefties, and he subs again. And great move from Crystal there. well, from Twash and Crystal. But Crystal Toxics there simply to not burn more valuable PP later. And if Ludicolo subs or protects, whatever, but he can U-turn afterwards. So really, really nice move there, just for the sake of saving PP. That was very heads up. So now the obligatory Leech Seed. I thought he was going to go for Protect, just for the extra health, but Scizor U-turns, and now Latias is in again. So there's going to be another Protect, and Latias recovers. Nice move. If there was a time to Leech, it might have been there, because the recover was very... The Protect was so obvious, and burning Draco PP for free would have been, you know, really good. And but that's exactly why Crystal might have gone for Draco. I mean, he already made that exact kind of read against the Kyogre earlier with Grass Knot, so no, maybe that's what he was looking for again. But Crystal does make the great move and recovers, because even if he's really in the driver's seat now, because even if Ludicolo does Leech, then he could just go back to Scizor and do this whole dance again. So, and you know, Ludicolo has to sub to protect itself from Scizor or give up momentum, and either way, when Scizor U-turns, Latias comes in for free. That's why it's so dangerous. No matter what Twash does, Latias will come in afterwards and threaten everything. So, HP Fire does a pretty good chunk, and he was out of Draco Meteor range at least there, so he gets the Leech off. And now, once again, Scizor comes in after the Leech, as Ludicolo is forced to protect once again. He's going to protect again here. Well, he doesn't have infinite protects either, so he chooses to go to Jirachi. And what makes this even scarier is that, yes, Jirachi can live one Sun boosted HP Fire, but it's what's it going to do back? It can't Wish Stall. It has 7 Wishes, 11 Protects, and HP Fire has a lot of PP. It's at 17 right now. And it can't even threaten to paralyze Latias because Thunder is 50% in Sun. And yes, 60% is to paralyze is big, but not when the move to hit is 50% to begin with. So, yeah, he's not in a great spot. So, but Crystal plays it safe. He goes back to Scizor. That's actually a great move because he forces Jirachi to either burn a Wish PP or he just gets more damage on it with U-turn and brings Latias in again. So really, really nicely done. Or he can just, you know, oh, that's even better. He can wait for it to, you know, if it's going to Wish up, no sense in U-turning back to Latias. You can just hit it with a few bullet punches. Maybe you could. That would have been a good turn to Toxic, just in case Ludicolo comes in or something. That would have been amazing, actually. But, yeah, so nicely done there. And now he can U-turn. And if Twash goes for Wish, then fine, because he's only got 6 left, so let him burn more. But Bullet Punch is also effective, so Wish is going to not do anything, so Thunder hits and Sun does 24, so zilch. And Scizor being paralyzed here is actually very helpful. And great, now we don't know if Scizor U-turn there, or Toxic there, or Bullet Punch there. Not unreasonable to assume that he Bullet Punched. But Twash made the very risky play, but he had to do it to get Wish back to Ludicolo, and he gets it back up to full. So that was really nicely done. So it wasn't just wishing for no purpose, it was seeing what Crystal wanted to do, and with Crystal locking into Bullet Punch, or not locking into, but, you know, showing that he wanted to spam Bullet Punch and stand and make Jirachi burn PP, then he read that he could make that move, and he did, and I'd love to see it. So Latias is in once again. We have that whole recover Draco dynamic, but the thing is that it spams HP Fire even pretty decently against Ludicolo, because it does a decent chunk. And Ludicolo does not have infinite Leech Seeds either, only 8 left. And he Dracos and misses, and the hit against Zong would have been nice, but... So, that was lucky. Not unreasonably, because Zong would have started healing with lefties, and if it stays in, then it's gonna... And he EQs Scizor on the switch, so nicely done. You know, every bit of chip is nice. And, yeah, so he gets Scizor to roost. And once again, he switches Ludicolo into Scizor for, this is like, the 3rd or 4th time? Which is insane. And he doesn't have infinite subs or protects, but he's got to, he's got a sub again, and in comes U-turn into Latias once again. This is riveting. I mean that with 100% seriousness, by the way. I was not kidding when I called this my favorite. So Twash stays in, leeches on the recover, knowing that he wants to be very careful with his remaining Dracos, and he was just out of range. So great move, and he leeches again on the Scizor switch, so really, really nicely done. Now he's going to sub on, no, he's going to Jirachi on the U-turn. In comes Latias once more. Scizor double on the protect. No, he goes for the Thunder right away. Not even protecting. So Crystal really playing it safe. There's the Toxic. And now Zong is going to throw Toxic at Scizor. You know, we finally hit turn 100. Full para, Toxic. So Bullet Punch, this little stall war. I mean, Ung has a lot of EQs, but they're doing nothing. So Scizor doesn't even have to roost most of the time, as he wastes rocks on the previous turn. Yeah, so EQ rocks. Once again, Scizor, Ludicolo switches into Scizor, eats a crit Bullet Punch. Protects for the extra leftovers back, Scizor full paras anyway. And is he going to go to Jirachi or is he going to protect? He is going to go to Jirachi, and Scizor full paras. I know PP is being burned on these turns, which is nice. So Thunder, doing nothing. I mean, Scizor doesn't have infinite roosts either. It does only have 8 left, but it's going to take a lot of... it takes so many hits just to force it to roost at all, so... You know, he's going for... You know, Twash says, alright, I'm going full Rachi, and that's the turn where Scizor breaks through and roosts. So... Thunder again missing, so yeah, it's not really easy, because Iron Head, well, he does have 17 Iron Heads left, but he doesn't want to start from full, so he's looking for, oh, after Thunder he goes for Wish, not even Iron Head, so, yeah, more Thunders. He's only got a couple Thunders left, but that looks like Jirachi Hero Mode range, if I ever saw one, but no, he uses it, nice bluff there, or maybe he changes his mind, who knows, and Ludicolo switches into Scizor for the 5th or 6th time. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Ludicolo is now going to sub again, and Scizor full paras, and he decides instead of Leech Seeding, he goes for Surf. So nice move. Ludicolo can either run Surf or Grass Knot or Ice Beam. My favorite personally is Grass Knot, just for Groudon, but hitting Kyogre hard actually, that's really important. But Surf, you know, fine too. And, yeah, so now he's going to Surf again, getting some... Now he's burning PP from his last move, finally, so Scizor's full pairing a lot, but not doing a lot. And he's getting lefties. That's the main purpose of this full... Or the main benefit of this full para stuff. So Latias, once again, Grass Knots doesn't do very much. That was a good Grass Knot, because if you get it to burn... Latias still has actually 10 recovers, which is a lot. So if you force him to... Now it's actually a matter of burning Ludicolo's Leech Seeds more than anything else. He didn't even want to spam HP Fire because he wants to be very careful with that. And Grass Knot, you know, good burn there. If it's Protect, fine. If you do little damage, fine. And in comes Dugtrio on the Latias. And with Dugtrio's low HP stat, the Leech Seed is going to be healing a lot. So it has Substitute, so it can Sub-Stall. And... So, just to reiterate, Ludicolo switched out of Latias into Dugtrio, and now Dugtrio is going to try and sub-Leech Seed stall the Latias. Oh my god, I love this game. So there's the sub, Latias Grass Knots breaks it, and Leech Seed does bring Doug back up to full, and in comes Groudon, and that's going to give Dugtrio a free sub. I mean, either Dugtrio stalls out the Latias, or it stalls out, or you switch and give it a free sub. And with Protect, so it's Sub-Protect, and it's not a stretch to imagine that last move is Toxic. And it burns a potential Custat Berry from Groudon, so very nicely done there. And now Scizor is naturally... Oh, sorry. Scizor is naturally a kind of foil to this kind of Dugtrio set, because it's like Ludicolo, you know, slow U-turn out, and you're not afraid of EQ or Toxic too much. But with 70%, or actually going to be 58 after Rocks, and Parad, then, you know, spamming some EQs on it would be really good for Twash, because it only has 6 Roosts. So, if anything, he welcomes something else coming in. He Toxics Latias and misses again, which bites. But the amazing thing is that if Chomp comes in, you know, if it's Scarf, which you assume it is, then you just sub and protect and beat it easily. So you force Twash to, you force Crystal to either reveal the last or go to Latias and get Toxic. And Toxic misses again, but it recovers. I think he was expecting Protect there, which is very reasonable, but I think that was a little premature, but I think just attacking was better. But now he goes to Scizor on the Toxic, and he EQs, and the crit, I mean, the crit wasn't as important, well, I mean, it was important, obviously, but it was mostly the fact that EQ on the switch was likely going to 2 KO through lefties. You know, you can't switch into that EQ, you have to, you know, roost on the first one. So, and that was a great read to EQ on, you know, from behind the sub against the Latias, now avoiding Toxic. I guess it's not like you can expect Toxic there. I mean, you know, who knows? It could have been like Stone Edge or something. But I think Toxic is reasonable to expect, but, he goes to Scizor after, and Twash reads it beautifully, and, yeah, so I think Latias should have attacked, but then Twash just makes a great move and EQs on the switch, and Scizor's going down. And now it's just going to be Dugtrio City. So, yeah, Chomp EQ, sub, protect, and down it goes. So in comes Latias again. Now the Toxic is finally going to hit on the third attempt. And yeah, that's going to be Dugtrio. We don't know the last yet, but probably fair to assume it doesn't do great against Doug or the rest of Twash's pokes. So down goes Latias, and the last is unrevealed. Okay, well that was anticlimactic, but I loved this game. The team, and that was just beautiful to watch. So yeah, that was worth 141 turns. And let's go through the last game, Game 3. So yeah, Twash is nothing if not creative. And there's another Ho-Oh lead. You love to see it. There's T-Tar, probably not running rock moves, although who knows, I saw a banded one. So this one goes for rocks as Ho-Oh just EQs. And in comes Kyogre, which is going to eat a EQ decently. Still a lot of damage, but it's clear that it's not the most defensively invested Kyogre, and Twash stays in. Brave Birds, and it is Pasho Ho-Oh, and that eats the Surf, and now it's going to threaten another KO. And he EQs to prevent T-Tar from coming back in on Brave Bird and finishing it off with that and Recoil, and he finishes off Kyogre. So Ho-Oh already, chunking T-Tar, KOing Kyogre. That was a great start. In comes Ray with Rocks Up, pretty threatening. So Ho-Oh goes down and even reveals that the Ray is Life Orb, so that's valuable. In comes Twash's own Ray, so I'm thinking, is this like Scarf Rayquaza or something? Crystal does not want to find out, and he sacks T-Tar, and he does in fact go right for an Outrage and does not show. Oh, it is, so I'm going to give Twash the benefit of the doubt. I really don't think he had nothing else to answer Rayquaza. I think he just wanted to bluff that he was Scarf, because at this point, Crystal knows Twash is maybe not crazy enough, but definitely unafraid enough to use something like that. But now he sees that it's not Scarf, so he goes to DOA and finishes it off with Ice Beam. So Ray, DOA, I like Crystal's team, very aggressive. So in comes Scizor, and Dialga comes in. Twash does not want to risk the fire move, so he Bullet Punches as opposed to U-turning or Ice Beaming. Life Orb Bullet Punch, that's the old Uber's Trapper Scizor from like '08 or something. It's crazy. Like in the very early days of Platinum Ubers, it was like BP, U-turn, Pursuit, Roost, and with especially defensive spread and Life Orb, so you love to see it. Anyway, Tina O coming into Dialga is not a great sign, but he manages to find its way in on the Fire Blast at least. Eats a burn, which is pretty brutal, but at least with the, I think Draco was a good move there because no way Scizor staying in, but then again, maybe he doesn't really want to switch out, so I think it was fine, but it worked out. So now Scizor comes into Tina O, eats up the Crystal's own Scizor rather, eats up the Draco. Nice team from Crystal, really nice. And he's going to finish it off with Bullet Punch himself, so no harm, no foul. In comes Twash's own Scizor, and he's going to Superpower. That's very rare on the traditional Uber's Trapper Scizor because you want Roost and you want BP, U-turn, and Pursuit. So, but I like the inclusion of Superpower there because it hits Dialga that thinks it has a free switch. So that's really nice. And he manages to take out Scizor. A surprise twist. I was just expecting, he's going to Roost up and stay healthy to take Dracos later, but no. Now this comes at a cost, of course. He's no longer going to be able to check DOA, but I assume, and with, Ray down, so no E-Speed there, no Shadow Sneak from Giratina, then that might be dangerous, but he got Scizor out of it, so he's going to, I assume that he thought that through and he was looking for Dialga, but hey, he'll take the Scizor being KO'd. Because it was either Dialga or Scizor staying in there. Ray's, I guess Ray could have come in, but Dialga's more likely. So, good move on Twash's end. Very nice, especially because it was unexpected. So, here comes DOA, which is just going to take advantage of the -1 defense and finish it off with E-Speed. So, in comes Lucario, another priority poke. And he goes for E-Speed. Now, if it is Scarf Dialga, which is the likeliest scenario, then it can switch into E-Speed here, but that's so risky. So it's, do you want to risk Dialga switching in on CC? Now, if Twash went for CC there, that would have been absurd. You know, make no mistake about it. But it's hard to figure out Twash's team because it's so unconventional. I mean, Scizor and Luke with a Ho-Oh lead and Rayquaza and Tina-O. I mean, the last could be, at this point, you think the last is like a slow rocker. And that's actually what kind of made me want to suggest that Dialga might be the better move, because even if you get CC'd, then Ray comes in afterwards. And with all this priority on Twash's team, it's not like his last Pokemon is probably going to be that fast because he needs a rocker. I mean, sure, it could be Scarf Rocks Groudon, my favorite, or Scarf Rocks Dialga. But I think it's reasonable to assume that it's slow, or on the slower side, so you could finish it off with Ray and DOA in the worst case scenario, as opposed to Ray and Scarf Dialga is like a safe bet too. So it's not the worst move, but the upside is that potentially instead of going 2-2, then you would have a 3-2 if Luke goes for E-Speed, which it very likely would. Because, I mean, CCing in that scenario is crazy. So, and he goes for E-Speed, finishes it off, doesn't want to risk it, and he does in fact go to Ray. So Luke E-Speeds crits, that's probably not going to make much of a difference, because, oh, well, that does. Well, now we don't know the last, as that sucks. Alright, I don't know how long my mic was. I hope my mic didn't cut out there, but you saw that end. Yeah, I think going to Dialga there would have been fine, but yeah. Alright, so this video is going to be an hour long now, so I'm going to save the rest of the recap for, you know, a part 2, because these first 2 series were pretty crazy in and of themselves. So, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you in part 2.